out the best practices of world-class universities such as the City University of Hong Kong. And our solution was this masterclass, which is planned throughout 2022. With the series, we aim to reach out to countries that are not in the mainstream of global higher education. And therefore, this webinar targets higher education leaders in South and Southeast Asia, as well as Africa, although the webinar is, of course, open to everyone, everywhere. These are also the countries that the City University of Hong Kong is keen to engage with, and with a view to establishing its brand strongly in this part of the world. The third Hong Kong Tech Masterclass is titled Strengthening Internationalization and Global Partnerships, and they will focus on the various ways in which City U of Hong Kong is expanding its ties with universities from around the world. Strategic international partnerships have helped City U of Hong Kong rapidly climb in global university rankings, and sharing this experience with you today presents both a branding opportunity for City U of Hong Kong and a chance to genuinely share the lessons that City U has learned along the way. We hope that today's event will help you by providing new ideas and insights into university-led research and innovation, and will give you a lasting and positive impression of City University of Hong Kong and Applied HE. Please enjoy the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mandy. And we now turn to the City University of Hong Kong Vice President for Development and External Relations, Professor Matthew Lee, for his welcome remarks and keynote address.
Welcome everyone to the latest Hong Kong Tech Masterclass. It is a great pleasure to meet you all today and to share ideas about the main topic for discussion today: strengthening internationalization and global partnerships. Like many leading institutions of higher education around the world, CityU is totally committed to strengthening internationalization in all our operations. We see great benefits in building global partnerships, encouraging international collaborations, and expediting exchanges for scholars and students. More than anything, we want to develop advanced educational and research programs that embrace international standards and offer young people to proceed through higher education towards graduation with ample opportunities to enrich their perspectives by immersing themselves in other cultures. At this masterclass, we will present the strategies behind our own attempts at internationalization and sketch out some ideas for the future development of internationalization in higher education in Hong Kong and the region. And thank you once again for joining us today for what promises to be a, hopefully, very engaging discussion about internationalization and global partnerships. With that opening remarks, perhaps I can go on to talk a little bit informally about our strategies of internationalization at City University of Hong Kong. I'm Matthew Lee, Vice President of Development and External Relations at CityU. And today I'd like to just share with you some ideas and experiences that we have about internationalization strategies and future development at City University of Hong Kong. In 2019, we learned the very exciting news that according to data from Times Higher Education Global University Rankings, CityU's International Outlook score was the highest in the world. Well, if you compare the same figures, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we were nowhere. So it has been a rapid change in terms of the demographics, the compositions, and the internationalization angle in the university over the last 10 years. And this is something that can be done in a decade. And it's not something that has to be done in a century. Everyone at CityU was delighted with this achievement because our mission over the last few years has been to promote excellence in professional education and research at a global level and transform ourselves into a highly internationalized higher educational institution. Virtually no leading global universities in the world are not internationalized. You just look at the facts of the leading universities nowadays in the world. The momentum generated by our internationalization strategies has continued. At this moment, again, according to indicators from the Times Higher Education World University Rankings, our international outlook score is the second highest in the world. And it was top in Asia for 3 years, from 2020 to 2022. And what's more, we are top in Hong Kong in 3 related sub-indicators of internationalization. This is the ratio of international faculty and students, as well as percentage of international co-authored research papers in the periods from 2019 to 2022. These are open figures, hard figures that anyone can look at from the relevant research databases and also from the internet. My aim here today is not to boast about our success, but to share with you how we successfully took action to internationalize with some results. The following details about what we want to do, why we want to do it, and why we did it, and how. Well, internationalization, the fundamental elements of it are students and faculty. In any institutions, any universities, faculty and students are the core. If they are internationalized, then the institution is internationalized. So first, we knew that if we wanted to become a genuinely international university, we need to attract the best possible students from all over the world and thereby boost the ratio of local to non-local students. We wanted to benchmark ourselves against world-class universities in this aspect and compare ourselves favorably in terms of how many non-local students enroll in our program. The rationale was that we could never be international if our student population were overwhelmingly local, and we can never be a leading global university if our students are overwhelmingly local. The same thinking applies to faculty. We wanted to reach out to the entire world and recruit the best faculty from other countries and regions and connect with scholars who would inject our campus with an enriched set of skills and experiences. And to do so, we poured a huge amount of time, resource, and energy into establishing global partnerships, attending numerous recruitment expos around the world, and establishing global searches for first-rate scholars to join us, both young and more experienced. Every year, the university, very top level, from president and also all the vice president, will lead talent search delegations in the top education centers in the world to recruit faculty members. Of course, we slowed down a little in the last 2 to 3 years because of COVID, but we have been doing that at a very high frequency for many years prior to that. And this unrelenting effort has yielded meaningful results. As you can see, currently, 40% of our students are non-local, which amounts to around 8,000 students, men and women, from over 70 countries, while 75% of our faculty members are non-local, and they come from 35 countries all around the world. Now, in terms of breadth and scale, these figures speak for themselves. They compare very positively with those recorded at many leading world-class universities. Now, this enriched international mix means local students at CityU have many opportunities to mix with people from different social, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds, while non-local students can immerse themselves in Hong Kong. And consequently, both groups can build better levels of understanding and tolerance, which are the twin drivers behind why we are at CityU value internationalization so much. Secondly, we want our local students to see the world fully and experience what it is like to live, study, and work overseas, and then for them to return to Hong Kong energized, inspired, and possessing much broader views, knowledge, and aspirations. The impact of these students returning to Hong Kong after several weeks or months in another country or region can be felt throughout society, and in return, greatly prepare participants in their future careers. And to make such a mission possible, we have established hundreds of overseas partnerships that are now allowing us to reach our ambitious target of enabling a high percentage of our undergraduates to take part in exchanges before they graduate. We have reached about 55% point some time ago. That is, more than 1 in 2 of our students will have a chance to study overseas for at least 1 semester before they graduate. More than 1 in 2 students. Of course, last 2 to 3 years, we've been pushed back a little because of COVID, but our aim remains to have more than half of our students to have the opportunity to go overseas before they graduate for a meaningful period of time of study, which is, we hope, at least 1 semester. And we are now working towards a figure of 65%. So you see that there are these twin pillars of internationalization in our students' body. One is that we recruit international students, but that there are some constraints in terms of the number of international students that we can recruit, because our institutions is subsidized by taxpayers' money. So there is a cap on the number of overseas students that we can recruit. Okay, we've done our best. We maximize what we can do. We reach the cap, and we try to, within that, we try to diversify the sources, the source of our international students. Even the number is limited because of the cap that I mentioned, because we're supported by taxpayers mainly, local taxpayers mainly. But within that number, we try to diversify it and recruit international students from a wide spectrum of locations in countries. Okay, so you see that's diversifications. Perhaps not in terms of internationalizations in our student bodies, perhaps not in terms of student numbers. We're talking about 20% of the total undergrad student population. We're talking about but diversity from 35 countries. I mean, that is something that we have been aiming at. Now, with the other, I said there's a twin pillar. The other pillar of our internationalization in our student body is through exchange programs, where we have a lot more leeways, because our students go out. Every student here goes out, there is a student coming back in because it's an exchange from our partner universities. So that way, you see then the internationalization, the international mix in the student bodies become more dynamic and become more active. And in a typical year, we usually send out more than 1,000 students for one semester overseas. And reciprocally, we receive a similar number of students from our overseas partners. We've signed up with over 400 university partners for undergraduate exchange programs so far to enable this to happen. And we've done this over the last, gradually over the last decade. So that's the student body. But once you put the international mix here on campus, we need to physically transform our campus, so as to take care of this international mix of students. This means that we need to make sure that we could provide everything non-local students would require during their time at CTU. To start with, we have to provide more accommodation options by expanding the provision of student hostels. Overseas students come into Hong Kong, which is a place where it is very expensive to hire private accommodations. So without university providing some subsidized hostel places, it will be very difficult for international students to come to Hong Kong. So we have been doing a great deal in terms of expanding the provision of student hostels here at the university. And to this end, 2 major construction projects are underway that will supply upwards of a couple more thousand additional bed spaces to students in the near term. In terms of making students' life a top-notch experience for non-local students, we have also scrutinized aspects of daily life. For example, food is one highly important necessity. For internationalization, we have to cater to the needs of a much more diversified student body. And so we set about upgrading our catering outlets to provide varied meal options to meet non-local students' dietary customs. We have food for Muslim students, for example, and we, at the same time, offer multiple opportunities for non-local students to set up their own social clubs, interest clubs, and societies through which they can build networks and establish lasting friendships. And we support these groups by providing all manners of resources and by listening to these students' groups and finding out exactly how we can help them. Whatever they propose in terms of new groups and resources that we can help with, we'll listen to and do our best to facilitate all the necessary logistics. And that's among the various international student groups. They are from 35 countries, remember that. And also, between them and the local students, we have been providing a lot of opportunities for them to intermix, for them to get a better understanding of each other. So they will maximize the benefit of their international spell of time outside their home country at a university like ours. As a statement of our intent, we keep on doing this and providing better and better resources to help to support a multicultural campus here at CTU. We are setting up a new unit to boost multicultural exchange and help foster a more inclusive environment on campus and beyond. The Cultural Exchange Oasis, in short CEO, is a new unit that we're going to set up to support the university's overall strategy for internationalization by helping to develop and run projects and programs that promote multicultural exchange and understanding both on campus and in the community. So this is another example of an extra sort of infrastructures that we're building up to support a global campus. And fourthly, perhaps also very importantly, there is no doubt that finances play a major part in internationalization in a university. Whether you're trying to attract non-local students to your own university or facilitating overseas exchange or local students, funding is a large part of the considerations. To attract non-local students to come to, the best quality non-local students to come to CTU, sometimes you have to offer significant scholarships, because some of these students might be from countries which cannot afford to study at CTU, but they're top-notch students, okay? So we need to offer them scholarships, and that requires funding. And for our students to go overseas, not all of them can afford a semester overseas. Even though through exchange agreements, they don't have to pay school fees because it is a reciprocal arrangement. They only pay CTU school fees. They go to Harvard, Yale, MIT, they don't pay their fees. But cost of living is sometimes very expensive, in these countries. So they need quite a bit of help, and we have been establishing a lot of scholarships, overseas exchange scholarships, to help them to make the journey more feasible financially. Because we're talking about over half of our students to be able to do that. We're not talking about the elite, 5%. So that means that we really need to put in significant amount of resources to back up these schemes. Otherwise, they will not be able to be successful at this scale. So we need to raise funds and reach donors. Luckily, CTU has been quite successful in getting support from the communities, and there are many kind donors who have helped us with donation monies to establish endowments, scholarships, and so forth. That makes these scholarships possible. We have made it a very specific goal to raise CTU's local and international profile as a means to encourage potential supporters to give generously to support our drive to become fully internationalized. Donations work on several levels. For example, there are board institutional level donations that serve to endorse our research and thereby promote our work at the international level. And to attract faculties, top faculties, to come to CTU, from around the world to come to CTU, one of the elements that we have been doing in the last few years to establish named professorship schemes. This professorship often endowed by donor, okay? Leading scholars in the world will often already hold named or endowed professorships in other parts of the world. And to make ourselves competitive in attracting them to join us, we need to provide at least similar provisions. In Hong Kong, endowed professorship is a relatively recent phenomenon. We started this effort only about 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago, from zero. Now we have reached number of 20. With that, it has helped us to attract world-class scholars to come to CTU to join our faculty, to advance research and professional education here. And by adding to the prestige of our professors, we inevitably boost our image, which in turn attracts more donors and more students and more quality faculty members. So we don't see this as a cost, we see this as an investment, and we see we are not alone. We have a lot of supporters in the community, which we reach out very extensively. And some of them are very generous to help us with that. At the other end of the spectrum, we offer many different kinds of scholarships, not only to promising young students to enable them to study with us, but also to promising young students from less advantaged countries and regions, as I said earlier on. We appreciate that talent exists all over the world, and we want to reach out to those students with fewer economic opportunities and offer them the chance to study at CTU so long as they are good. We don't want them not to be able to come to us because of merely financial reasons. The second approach is to seek out whatever Hong Kong government, local government has to offer by way of financial support. And there are many opportunities available in terms of funding and scholarships in Hong Kong, study and cultural exchanges and employment and internships on offer. Admittedly, not every jurisdiction in other parts of the world has pockets as deep as those that are available to us here. And there is Hong Kong after all is a relatively wealthy city, which is why the onus falls on universities like us to tap more into and exploit whatever financial resources are available in the community to put them to effective use by helping students, quality students, wherever they are around the world, to study here with us at CityU. And finally, speaking of government help, we have prioritized working with the local government and mainland governments in terms of a policy drive that boosts internationalization. So we are all in sync, because without that, it will be very difficult for a university alone to effectively drive that. And specifically, we are strongly aligned with the Hong Kong government's push to promote the advantage of Hong Kong in the context of the Greater Bay Area, market opportunities, career opportunities. And to that end, we are currently in the midst of setting up a CityU campus in the Greater Bay Area in Guangdong Province. And this institution will be a fully fledged degree awarding body modeled on CityU and with CityU's qualifications and quality assurance systems and quality programs. We are also very supportive of all measures of governments to help to relax employment and immigration restrictions for non-local students, enabling our graduates to remain in Hong Kong if they wish and study further, which is a great incentive to encourage non-local students to enroll on our programs, especially those from maybe economically less privileged regions. The possibility of further on to develop a career, to gain useful international experience at a high level in Hong Kong after graduation is attractive to many non-local students that we are recruiting. And we have been doing everything possible to leverage on this and facilitate and enable our students to capitalize on these opportunities. Looking ahead, there is still a great deal to do. While we are satisfied that we have advanced internationalization at CityU quite a bit, we are acutely aware that we must ensure that our efforts are sustainable. We would not want to lose the advantages that we have gained by relaxing and taking our foot off the gas pedal. Such actions will see our internationalization drive diminish rapidly. So that means that internationalization really has to be part of the top-level university strategies. It cannot be driven by just one or two units in the university in isolation. So at CityU here, because our vision is to excel as a global university, so internationalization is one of the crucial elements for arriving at this vision. For that, there's a lot of coordinations that is being done and is still being needed to be improved here at the university, because university is a big organization. So often, our internationalization effort involve many units, and coordination can always be improved in terms of how these various units work together strategically and operationally on our internationalization initiatives. Great institutional-wide coordination would ensure that all units were singing the same song sheet when it comes to reaching out to international community, for example, and arranging for our local students to seek experience overseas. Strengthened coordination would allow for a more coherent message to the rest of the world and better promote the holistic, sustained, and inclusive international experience that we offer. And of course, most important of all, I mean, all these programs has to be run very effectively in terms of generating the outcome that they are designed to do. And if various units involved in that, implementing the programs, if coordination is not well done, then it will not be effective. Efficiency will be low, and you will not be effective in arriving at your design target. So that's very important. Top level, there needs to be strategic priority, and at the implementation level, there needs to be strategic coordination among various units, sometimes cutting across different lines of supervised by the different VPs in the university. That said, we are pleased to see our internationalization strategies leading to some concrete results. And our responsibility now is to share our experiences and redouble our efforts to make sure we remain highly international in outlook and thereby supporting the university's vision as a leading global university in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Matthew Lee, for that very informative and I would say inspirational talk. We now move to the panel discussion, where we start with City of University Hong Kong Director for Global Engagement, Professor Dai Lin. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Lin Dai, Director of Global Engagement Office. Our office is an outreach arm of CTU. Our main functions include establishing collaborative links with leading academic institutions worldwide, recruiting top quality non-local students, and also enriching our students' multicultural learning experience and also international exposure. And here I'm going to introduce our strategies for internationalization from 4 aspects. That is how we expand global outreach, how we promote diversity and international outlook, how we create global learning opportunities, and foster an inclusive multicultural environment. Globalization is a key element of our university's strategic plan. So partnership cultivation is always one of our primary focuses. So far, we have over 500 partner institutions in over 52 countries and regions. But we continue to expand our global outreach through many different ways, such as the delegation visits and also attending the partnership conferences. And meanwhile, we also coordinate, advise, and assist our academic units to strengthen our existing partnerships. Because our faculty have very diverse and international backgrounds, their connections also help us build up new collaborations. Well, we also endeavor to diversify our student population to attract the top quality non-local students. We have established this very prestigious talents program, which is Hong Kong Tech Tiger Class, aiming to foster our future, to groom our future leaders. We also provide very generous scholarships And for students from underrepresented areas, we have this diversity grant to subsidize their cost of living. Well, during the pandemic, we have strengthened this digital marketing in areas that were difficult to reach out traditionally because of these geographic limitations. But for those strategic areas we always focus on, we also foster a very close partnership with school counselors and try to engage our alumni and also current students to help us promote. For our current students, our university has provided plenty of global learning opportunities to increase their international exposure. For example, we have established a joint bachelor's degree program with 6 universities, including Columbia University. We have more than 400 exchange partners all over the world, offering a variety of exchange programs, such as the semester-long exchange and month-long summer schools, and also study tours, which usually last for like 2 weeks. And to encourage our students to go outside to discover the world, our university has provided very generous funding support. But here is very worth mentioning that during the pandemic, we never closed our door. CityU is in fact the only public institution in Hong Kong that never suspends the exchange program. To prepare our students to better cope with this challenging situation, we have provided comprehensive pre-departure seminars and also provide continuous guidance and advice throughout their exchange. Well, on campus, we aim to foster an inclusive and multicultural environment. So far, 40% of our students are non-local students. So we, to help them better quickly adapt to the new environment, we organize this pre-arrival and orientation programs and also provide advising and support services such as visa application and insurance. And to promote cultural exchange, we have sponsored, guided, and also coordinated with various student groups and societies. For example, we have been working with Global Mixer, a group of students dedicated to promoting cultural diversity and integration. So this International Cultural Carnival has become a signature event that attracts a huge amount of local and non-local students every year, while they can mingle together and learn from each other. And this International Friends Club Buddy scheme serves as a bridge to connect our inbound exchange students with our students, our own students, through this peer support. And our non-local students also initiated, designed, and implemented a variety of projects to promote their rich, diverse cultural backgrounds, and meanwhile enrich our students' cultural exposure. And during the pandemic, we have put a lot of efforts on organizing virtual events and also digital media. For example, recently we have organized this online non-local alumni gathering, which in fact attracted even more attendance than the previous on-site gathering. We also observed a significant increase of followers of our CityU and Me Instagram. So to quote Albert Einstein, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunities. So during this challenging time, we would continue to strive for strengthening the internationalization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dylin, for that
piece of inspirational advice and sharing with us how it all works at the City University of Hong Kong. We now turn to CityU's Associate Dean for Internationalization at the College of Business, Dr. Mary Pang. The floor is yours.
Very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us in the sharing session. My name is Mary Pang, and I have spearheaded internationalization for the College of Business for the past 20 years. And I can vouch for the fact that internationalization is a priority for the College of Business and has been for the past 20 years. It's stated in our strategic plan, and the College of Business strategic plan is in alignment with our university strategic plan. So we are determined to continue to strengthen internationalization and our global partnerships. And in the College of Business, we would like to nurture graduates who are globally oriented. We want to give our students a broad knowledge base and opportunities to enrich their practical experience. And some of these internationalization activities that we conduct in the College of Business provide students with these learning opportunities. So, as mentioned, the Student Exchange Program is one of the major vehicles for student mobility. And the Student Exchange Program provides a very enriching educational experience for our students, both off-campus overseas and on-campus in Hong Kong at City University of Hong Kong. So with the exchange program, we send our students overseas for a semester or 2 semesters for an overseas immersion experience. We also, in turn, receive international students to our campus to study in our classrooms, intermixed with our local students. And we very much value this diversity that the exchange program creates on our campus. As you can see from this chart, in the past 25 years that the Student Exchange Program has been in existence in our College of Business, you can see some phenomenal growth. And that is testament to the fact that both the College of Business and City University of Hong Kong have poured enormous amounts of resources into this area of activity. However, as you can also see, COVID-19, the global pandemic, has had a significant impact on our operations in the past couple of years. But as you could also see from this chart, we are recovering very well and rebounding and increasing our numbers of inbound international students to Hong Kong and sending students overseas on exchange. And I anticipate that within the next year or so, we will be back to our normal numbers. So the College of Business provides plentiful of opportunities for our students to go overseas and study at a host institution. We have 240 host institutions for our business students to choose from, and they are in 41 countries covering 6 continents. Our partners that we select to work with us on bilateral exchange offer quality academic experiences for our students, and we ensure that our partners also have the systems in place to ensure that our students' safety and welfare are taken care of. Beyond student exchange, we also offer summer programs. So we also send our students overseas during the summer for anywhere between 4 weeks and 6 weeks. And these programs are more theme-based, and they have a twin purpose of not only trying to cultivate global citizens amongst our students, but to make them socially aware, to foster and nurture a sense of civic responsibility in our students. So social responsibility is paramount, and these programs all give our students the opportunity to have first-hand experience, practical experience, giving back to the community while they are overseas. So this chart shows the sustained interest demonstrated by our students in joining our summer programs. And again, you can see that the COVID-19 global pandemic also impacted on our summer program operations. And again, we are rebuilding those numbers, and we hope to be back to our normal numbers, sending students out between 150 to 200 students during the summer period. With these overseas immersions, we are not just interested in sending students out and leaving them to their own devices. As we said, the summer programs have a particular learning theme. Depending on various students' learning needs, they select which program they would like to attend. But I would like to emphasize that all of our students going out on whether it's exchange or summer programs must attend our pre-departure training and preparation workshops. So we make sure our students are well prepared to maximize their learning while they are overseas. To give you some examples of our experiential learning programs, service learning is one of the perennially popular programs. So students go overseas and perform for approximately 4 weeks of community service, volunteer work in various countries around the world. So some activities include building homes for the underprivileged, or teaching at orphanages or in remote areas around the world. So another thematic program is the one that we created with the University of Cape Town with their Shawco affiliate. And with this program, our students have first-hand experience working in social enterprises, and students learn about social entrepreneurship in the classroom, but they get practical experience as well. We also have another program that we developed in conjunction with Wellesley College. This is a premier women's liberal arts college in the US. A notable alum is Hillary Clinton. Another one is Madeleine Albright. And essentially this program inspires our students to aspire and not to set limits on their goals and dreams. One of our longest programs that we have offered during the summer is the Cultural and Language Immersion Scheme. And this is very popular amongst our students because they live with a local family in the host country, and they also do volunteer work, community service while they're overseas. Feedback from students about these programs has been extremely positive, and two quotations lend credence to the fact that we are achieving our aims. So one student has said, "My greatest life lesson is to be more conscious, less ignorant, and less selfish." Another student has said that after this service learning trip, I am determined to shoulder social responsibility and devote myself to making a positive social impact. So we have, I think, indicated that these summer programs do achieve the aims that we set out initially, which is to cultivate socially aware citizens in our students. But on the global mindset aspect, we also have quantitative evidence to show the impact of our programs. All of our students are tested for their intercultural competence before they go out overseas and after they come back from overseas. And you can see from this chart, the brown parts of these bars indicate the improvements and developments in our students' intercultural competence skills. So we very much value all of these opportunities that students take up to develop themselves. And of course, all of this cannot happen without a dedicated team, a group of people who are passionate about student development and student learning and facilitating that growth process. So the team, the staff are absolutely crucial. On that note, I'd like to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mary Pang, and also showing us the different ways in which CityU of Hong Kong does this internationalization, summer programs, exchanges, etc. We now move to the City University of Hong Kong Associate Provost for Academic Affairs, Professor Julie Lee. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everybody. CityU is one of the most progressive universities in the world. And today I'm very happy to share two secrets of CityU's success: international faculty recruitment and international educational experience provided to students. CityU's most important asset is no doubt its human capital. Our international faculty members come from in the US, the UK, South Africa, Finland, Mexico, Singapore, just to name a few. And our 9 professional colleges and schools have a high percentage of international faculty members. And in interest of time, I will share 3 aspects of our international faculty recruitment: who to recruit, how we recruit international talent, and what is the effectiveness of our international faculty recruitment strategy. So the first question, who to recruit? Well, our international faculty recruitment aligns with university strategic directions. In our strategic plan 2020-2025, 5 interdisciplinary areas have been defined: digital society, smart city, One Health, matter, and brain. So accordingly, we launched global scholars recruitment campaign to seek outstanding scholars to join us in academic fields with special focuses on these 5 interdisciplinary areas and related interdisciplinary areas. We launched data analytics to facilitate faculty recruitment, and we enhanced the monitoring of faculty recruitment process. One very unique adjustment we made is to get the university management involved in the early stage of the faculty recruitment process. And at CityU, we have a 3-tier recruitment process. The cases will go through department, college, and central committee. So we introduced a screening strategy. The university management, specifically the Provost office, selects and screens candidates before the departments invite candidates to go through a formal review. So in this way, we uphold a high standard of recruitment university-wise, and we ensure our hires are strategic hires. We have a proactive outreach strategy, and we encourage our academic units to use a variety of faculty recruitment channels, including leading conferences, top journals, collaborations with renowned agencies, and roadshows, of course, virtual roadshows in the last year. So what is the effectiveness of our international faculty recruitment strategy? Our proactive global recruitment strategy has allowed the university to successfully increase our faculty strengths in the past years. Here's some evidence. Over 170 CityU faculty members listed among the top 2% of the world's most highly cited researchers, and the CityU ranked first in Hong Kong for citations per faculty. Our faculty members also excel in world-class research and education. The second secret of CityU's success is the international educational experience provided to students. Our curriculum has been globalized through joint degree initiatives. CityU has established partnerships with world-renowned universities and offers a variety of joint bachelor's degree programs. And these programs provide students with an international educational experience. Students spend 2 years at CityU and another 2 years in our partner universities overseas. Upon the completion of the graduation requirements of 2 institutions, students can get 2 degrees in 4 years. Another very attractive program offering is this undergraduate plus postgraduate degree. This is a through-train arrangement, and we have collaborated with some renowned universities in offering this undergraduate and master program, including UIUC and NUS. Finally, I want to mention the scholarships CTU provided to international students. CTU has an entrance scholarship scheme for international students with excellent academic performance. In terms of scholarship, I have to say CTU is the most generous institutions in Hong Kong. We also introduced the diversity grant for international students in 2016 to support students from countries less represented on CTU campus. Our international students recruitment is very successful. In last year, we recruited the international students from roughly 80 countries. So this is the end of my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation and just sharing all the secrets from CTU of Hong Kong with all our participants today. Our next speaker is from South Africa, founding member and director of the African for Center of Higher Education Internationalization, Dr. Nico Joosten. The floor is yours, Nico.
There you are. Thank you. Good morning. And I think you all see my screen and it's working. Peter?
Yeah, it's working. Yeah. Could you make it full screen?
Full screen. On my side, it is full screen. Let me just see.
The presenter's view. Nicole, can you just click on the presenters at the bottom?
Yeah.
The presenter's view.
My screen went.
I think it's screen froze.
Or just speak about your slides. I mean, we can see slides.
Okay, can you see the slides? Okay. Let me just start. I hope you can see it properly. If you don't, then it says it's screening and I don't know how to change it on my side because it's full screen on my side. But colleagues, thank you. Good morning. I don't want to waste time. I know we pressed for time, Peter. So I'm just, I listened carefully to the City University of Hong Kong. I'm bringing just an additional view on internationalization, focusing on partnerships. Now, as we've heard from the presentation from the City University, higher education internationalization have a whole number of legs it stand on. I normally identify 5, of which partnerships are one. And if we looked at how City University position themselves, I do believe that they focus a lot on partnerships globally to internationalize their campus. When we focus on higher education internationalization, I always ask myself the question, do we ask the why question enough? And because we normally jump into the how question, and focus on how do we do it, and we don't focus enough on the why. So I'm going to do a little bit, Peter, on the why. Why do we build partnerships, and why do we need to develop partnerships that are global, and where the focus is for a university to have a distributed partnership collection, if you want to call it that. Because in the future, I do believe that higher education partnerships are going to play even a more important role. Although at the moment, institutional higher education, internationalization, and partnerships have become synonymous, but I do believe that in future it's even going to be more important. Now it doesn't want to move. Now the question why? Why partnerships? We live in this hyper-connected world.
Nico, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. We can't see a proper slide. I suggest we just see your face and you talk us through it, because you have a very expressive face, and otherwise we're not seeing relevant slides.
Okay, shall I stop sharing then?
I think that's wise. I think that's a better experience for everybody, and because you know this stuff.
Nico, Simon will share it, and then all you have to do is just say next when you finish your slide. He will share it for you.
That'll be good. Okay. All right. Okay, we can go to the third slide, Simon. There you are. The why. Do you see it now the same? Well, it's the same that I saw previously. Okay. If we ask ourselves the question why for partnerships, then this quote that I've put on the screen from the Oxford Martin Institute actually describes it brilliantly. The last sentence, that partnerships are there for us to respond to each other in an era in which cooperation is a prerequisite for progress. If we think we can develop higher education internationalization without understanding why we do partnerships and how do we deepen the relationship between the different partners, I believe we will not utilize partnerships' value enough. Partnerships are critical, but how we manage them and how we, not only how we manage, how we select them and then manage them is of critical importance. Simon, the next slide, please. Now we know, and we don't have to look further than a few days ago on what's happening in the university and in the world. Universities are caught in the crossfire of a disrupted and complex world, and have to redefine itself. My belief is that we cannot do it alone. And we need to develop our partnerships in such a way that we jointly address the complexities of the world. Because if we try to do it on our own, we only have a local view on global issues. And we need global views on global issues for us to address the complexities in the manner that will provide us with lasting solutions. And therefore, in my experience, I ran an higher education internationalization for 15, 20 years at the university. It took 10, 12, 15 years to really deepen the partnerships, and they became lifelong friends, but also allies. Again, we need to come back to how do we select them and how do we make sure that they are globally representative. Thanks, Simon. Now, this brings me to this slide that I'm going to talk a little bit longer on. Partnerships is sensitive and complex, and we need to make sure that we understand this and we know how to manage it. It's all about the balance. It's about the institution and the self. The self means the people that manage, that engage in the partnerships. It's in most cases senior academics who are involved in the partnership. And sometimes the problem is that the academic see themselves in the partnership and forget that the institution is there also. Why is it important to make sure that in the management of international partnerships, we look at this relationship? If the academic moves on to another institution, does the partnership remain, and the partnership intensity, does it remain, or is that the end of the partnership? And therefore, that relationship between the institution and the self is of critical importance, and how do you manage that? City University spoke about the global and the local, on how they are sending their students to Cape Town. I'm just sitting just outside Cape Town, and I know the Shoka program actually quite well. My question that I'm putting to all of you when we look at partnerships doesn't actually refer to how you do it as City University, but the question I'm asking: if we send students on short-term or semester-long, that means exchange students, how do we do it? If we do it in a way that the receiving space is seen as a laboratory where we're going to do some practical work, and so the laboratory's door opens when we arrive, and the laboratory is closed when we leave, then our impact is only for the period that we're there. And when we're there, do we make create expectations, and they are not met, and when we leave, the society that's left behind are normally disappointed? Or do we have a strong institutional partnership like Shoka? And that's why I say I know it doesn't work. It doesn't happen in this case with City University in Cape Town, because Shoka is an established program. Your students go into this laboratory that's working 24/7 throughout the year. The students immerse themselves in the projects, and when they leave, there are others that take their place, and the sustainability of the project is sustained. Therefore, to me, that's an example of a way that you should engage from a partnership point of view with the place that you go to. But if you go on your own, even if you establish it for a long period of time, you go on your own, you open the doors of the laboratory for a few months or a few weeks, you close it again, and you think you will get the same place when you come back. You don't. And therefore, I'm saying that good partnerships and projects within partnerships of those where you do really the work with the partner and for the partner. And that comes back to the second last bullet on false choices. We must make sure that when we engage in partnerships, that we do not make those false choices, that it is only there, and I'm again not criticizing you as the university. I think you're doing an excellent job, but some universities make the choices of where they go on the basis of status and how does it increase and improve their position in rankings and so forth. I'm not saying you shouldn't make those choices, but make sure that it's not a false choice, but it's a real choice. And therefore, I'm pleading to all of us in going into the future, we need to make sure that our partnerships are value-driven. Identify those values that are dear to you, which you can actually take with you when you go. In my case, we identified the value of Ubuntu, which, by the way, is not an African value only. It's a global value. Ubuntu, I am because of you. So whenever we signed a partnership, the focus wasn't on me, but the focus was on the other. And how do we add value to the other in the global space that we entered? By managing the partnerships in this way, we made sure that we understood the complexities and the sensitivities of partnerships and the establishment of partnerships, not only for the moment that they were signed, but into the future. Simon, next slide. So how do we, in my thinking, how should we take our partnership forward to make sure that they're sustainable, that they're value driven, etc. Now, for those of you who have read a little bit of English literature and history, the whole notion of the commons, you know, we're using the word commons quite frequently in current higher education speak. I believe that we need to see our partnerships as a commons. That means a space where there are more people that welcome, as the commons was envisaged in the old days, and that we don't create a tragedy of the commons where trade and financial gain and all of that actually starts to minimize the value of the commons, especially when we talk about South-South-North collaboration. We must make sure that we create a space where everybody feels welcome. We create a commons where partnerships live and more than one partner can enter those commons at the same time and be feel welcome and add value to the space. One of the earlier speakers spoke about global competencies. The whole notion of what does global competence means for an institution in the South. We've written a little bit of that, that global competencies and global competency creation for us living in the South is different from what does a globally competent student means for those in the North. And I do believe that we as universities that operating in the South needs to make sure that we understand our values and the competencies that we want to transfer to those that come to our campus. I need to congratulate you for having so many international students. I hope when they leave, they take the values that you transfer to them to the places where they go to. Because only if we do that, we will create a better world and a world that understands each other better. We can be very negative about the world, but to me, that's the whole notion of creating a commons. And with that, I want to end and say thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Nico. I'm so sorry to cut you off a little bit, but we have gone over time. Oh, you were about to finish. Oh, then I guess right.
I'm finished. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Wow, we've had so much material, so many examples, and also many questions here in the group chat. So we're going to take about 15 minutes for a group discussion because there's so much here. So I apologize that the session will be slightly extended. The first question I actually wanted to ask is, I think, a little bit directed at CityU, possibly Professor Matthew, but perhaps one of his colleagues. And that has to do how the COVID crisis has highlighted the risks of traditional mobility-driven internationalization. And I'm just wondering how this has changed or reinforced CityU's risk assessments and responsibility to care for all its students and staff.
Perhaps, thank you for the question. Perhaps I can say a few words and then Professor Julie Lee will be able to supplement. Well, I mean, COVID, of course, has hit the world in the last couple of years or so. Now, this traditional mobility-driven internationalization has been very important to us. Now, because of COVID, people cannot travel so freely. So we were trying to kind of make available some substitute channels for this exchange. Like, can you do exchange online? Can you, whatever electronic means to engage in exchange? Well, we have some students who have taken up that choice, that option. But I personally feel that there is nothing that can replace the physical experience of being internationally mixed in a campus. Because it's not just, when you are in a different campus, it's not just going to class. Even going to class online may be different from going to class on a face-to-face setting. There is the interactions, the social interactions, the academic interactions with other students on campus, on a physical setting, which cannot be replaced, through some chat channels, Facebook, Instagram. It's just not a possible kind of direct replacement. But what we have learned, though, is that the COVID is not going to be here forever. I mean, it is going to be eventually sort of the world will be able to live with it, for whatever means, right? And mobilization will come back to us various extents, different time. So we are looking forward to going back to normal. But these couple of years has taught us some valuable experience of how virtual channels, virtual platforms can really help in a complementary way to enrich the face-to-face experience, can amplify the face-to-face experience. So looking forward, when we return to a more normal traditional setting, when there are actual physical presence of international students in a big number, in addition to all the activities and all the programs that we had been running prior to COVID, I think there will be another dimension now emerging because of our experience in using virtual platforms to enrich those physical experience. So that's my overall view on this. Julie, Professor Lee will have another angles, I think, to supplement. Yeah, please, Julie.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Peter, for the question. Well, we fully appreciate the need to meet the challenges common to all world-class universities arising from the globalization of the higher education, as well as the impact of the COVID-19. The university has always paid heed in assessing the risks it is facing, and the university conducts an annual review of its risk register and has in place mechanisms to mitigate any anticipated risks. And at operational level, the university established an emergency response unit to deal with issues arising from the COVID-19 and other emergency issues. And in addition, the university offers support and arrangements for students affected by COVID-19 and other emergencies. For example, we provide flexible teaching and learning arrangement for our students. The university has also made a special consideration and allowance for staff affected by such events. So yeah, we do offer a variety of cares for our students and faculty members. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Yeah, indeed, a huge challenge that's there. Nico, I think, made a very nice point about value-driven, that you need values when you build partnerships. And I have a feeling Dr. Mary Pang wholeheartedly agrees with him in some of the materials she presented. So I was just wondering if you could perhaps touch on that a little bit. Of course, if it's collaboration between two excellent academic institutions, it's fairly clear where the values might lie. But if it's collaboration between the City University of Hong Kong and perhaps a less well-resourced, less well-known institution in an emerging country, you probably look at different values and how you collaborate. And I ask this question also because many of our audience are from countries like the Philippines, Botswana, Pakistan, etc., who have a lot to offer, but it's a different kind of collaboration than if you work with, let's say, another top-ranked university. But
Yes,
if not Dr. Mary Pang, it can be somebody else. I don't want to put you on the spot, sorry.
No, I'm happy to take this question. So thank you, Nico, for raising that point, because it's very valid. And this is something that we take very seriously. When we select partners, we are trying to create a collaboration which is mutually beneficial. So we are not saviors. For example, when we send our students to do volunteer work overseas, we give our students training to make them empathize. We send them to workshops in Hong Kong before they go overseas. For example, dialogue in the dark, students simulate what it's like to be visually impaired. So students know that they are not saviors. They're not there to help other people. They are there to learn. It's mutual learning. So the partnerships that we set up are not 1 year, 2 years. They are for a significant length of time. Many of our partners that we work with the summer program have been partners with us for more than a decade. So these are long-term partnerships, and we consistently every year send students back to those destinations and to also pick up on projects that were left behind by previous years, previous cohorts of students. So our students might bring their, for example, business knowledge and be able to revamp some and establish some systems for our partners overseas. But then our students learn so much from our partners. So I really want to underscore this point that it is mutual learning. We are not there to give something to the other, the host community. Our students are there to learn and to appreciate the reciprocal relationship. So it is very value driven. And when we select partners, we bear this very much in mind.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Chris. Does anybody else want to comment from the CityU panel?
Yeah, can I add a few points? And thank you, Nico, for bringing a very important question, why universities want to engage in globalization. There might be some other reasons, but for CityU, in essence, the university vision and mission drives these international collaborations. We all know our university mission is to nurture and develop student talents and to create applicable knowledge for social and economic advancement. So as for the value added this international collaboration bring, we want our, just like Mary mentioned, we want our partners to be complementary, where students are able to study at institutions with complementary curriculum and a learning experience. Thank you.
Perhaps if I might just add a few words on that.
Please,
I mean,
please.
I echo very much earlier on the speaker, and that's what we do here too. I mean, our partnerships are value driven, and it has to be of value to both parties. Now, of course, you know, one scenario which is most straightforward is that if a partner institution is on a similar quote tier, you know, if you look at it this way, CityU is global top 60, you will work with a university somewhere around that, then it will be very straightforward. But then there's only one mode. There are other modes of collaborations, because reputation is just one of the many ways that the parties can provide value to each other, right? We actually, I think we are, in Hong Kong, we are the largest, we have the largest number of international students from the One Belt One Road region, from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and around that sort of regions. Now, in that sort of scenario, the value propositions has to come from somewhere, start from somewhere, the collaboration, come from students, right? Although the university, because they don't have the resources that we have, they might not be as such a, you know, a tier from you know, the perspective of academic accomplishment, but the human talents, especially the young talents, I think the top 1% of these talents in any region of the world are top talents in the world. It's just that they need to be developed further. So we work with those institutions in such a situations that they have really talented students, they can benefit with a better environment. Okay, so we go and take their students and work with them. Not that they come to CityU and then they forget about the home institution. But through that, there is a link with the students coming in. Then CityU will develop a link gradually with the home institution. Okay, And that is at the undergraduate level. And the graduate level, then the link very often will develop into links between the supervisors of the students in the home institution and in CTU, and then the laboratories and joint projects later on, research projects and so forth. So it has to start somewhere. As I said earlier, and the easiest thing is you just find an institution similar to you, then everybody will be happy to sign an MOU. But after signing this, maybe nothing happens. Still needs people to push, but it's easy to sign. Now, if you find an asymmetric partner, you have to find some values which are of common benefit to each other. Student is one example, and there are others. Maybe in a certain research area, where there are really empirical data in certain geographic regions, and then a complementary research team can then be formed. Maybe the theoretical part, the methodology part, can be driven by the more experienced international team here, but the empirical part we have to sort of be taken somewhere from our partner country in this region may have to take a lead. Then you have some value proposition for both parties, and then they will drive the work going forward. And with more actual collaborative work going on, and you have opportunity to develop other opportunities, because with that you have understanding, the complementary strengths and weaknesses of each other. And through the individual networks, and you may be able to pull in other people together from the two institutions to form other partners, other projects. We've seen quite a number of projects actually developed like that. But as I said earlier on, we look at from the value angle to both parties. And the value is diversified, in terms of academic institution. Whenever we see there is something that we can develop, and it can start from a small angle, then we just make it realize, and then develop further from that. And some will bear fruits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're touching on something here. We've talked about values, also about individuals, and I think that's something Professor Lin Dai already in her speech spoke of as well. So the individuals can often be the driver or the instigator of a partnership, and if then there's a value proposition, or their shared mutual values, then finally, how do you institutionalize it? And I was hoping perhaps one of you can comment on that. How do you move from the individual to the institutionalization to make it something bigger than just a personal contact?
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for the question. Maybe I can start a little bit, and my colleagues would supplement. So here, to initiate the collaboration, we have indeed two approaches. One is the top-down, so our office would receive some, proposals, and then we send to college and schools to collect their feedback to see if they're interested. But of course, we have another approach that is the bottom-up. Right, our faculty members, because they have very international backgrounds and they have all these collections all over the world. So sometimes if they have, they see some possible collaborations with other institutions, they would also, talk to us and see how we can help to further help grow this to some institutional collaboration proposal. But I think for our role, the Global Engagement Office, because we can talk to all these different colleges and schools, and sometimes, for example, say the College of Engineering. So some faculty member, they propose the collaboration with a certain university, but then we can see that probably in other schools like College of Science or other related disciplines, they probably also have some potential to collaborate. And then we would invite, send the information to those interested parties and see if, they are interested, then probably we would, upgrade it to some institutional partnership. So this is what we usually do. Maybe.
Yes, perhaps if I may just add a few. Faculty level, very often it start with joint supervision of PhD students. Now, regardless of the quote ranking of a partner institutions, there are always some experts in some areas. And these people probably are known to our colleagues, maybe in the international conferences and elsewhere, okay? And they want probably they're interested in each other's work. So how to start? Well, one way is to have joint PhD students in a way that the PhD students is supervised by faculties from both institutions. And that is very easily done in terms of procedure. Now from that, it developed further, maybe a joint research project, funded research projects. Our faculty members are all very good at getting funded research projects. And so if there is, from that, very often, they will develop in joint research project, and then maybe collaborations between whole research teams, They develop that way. And after a couple of years or so, successful collaborations, maybe at the department level, maybe at the school level, maybe institutional level. That is one way of organic growth, starting from some actual working together, through a medium. In this case, it's joint supervision of PhD students, right? So that is organic bottom-up growth, which I've seen in reality, many successful examples. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would also, and we are running out of time, like to bring in Nico one last time before we wrap up the panel discussion. This whole approach, values, individuals, institutionalization, we've heard City of Hong Kong's perspective. Could you perhaps give your perspective, like the African perspective, for want of a better word, or the Nico perspective? That's also fine.
Thank you, Peter. I can't add much more to what City University is doing. Of course, the whole issue of values from our point of view, or African point of view, is that one must make sure. I want to promote those jewels of institutions that are not always on the ranking lists, because the whole value of going into institutions and into societies which I need to connect globally, because their view is very local, and they don't sometimes understand why this world is demanding from them what's happening. It's not only in Africa, South America have similar experiences. But I do believe that institutions, when they do develop their internationalization strategies, need to identify the values that's driving it and actually advertise those. It's critical that the values of a particular region or institution is exposed to world views and world experience for us to bring each other together. I just shortly want to say to you, or give you an example. The value of I am because of you. Over time, we, at my previous institution, Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, we followed the Tübingen model of a family week, where we brought our partners to our campus once every 2 years. The value of that was, for me, the little bit of money that it cost me was worth 10 times more than the value of developing trust. And the whole notion of trust capital in the global environment is so important. And you can only build trust capital if you build your institutional partnerships and your internationalization strategies on trust and over a long time. So the values and trust capital goes hand in hand, because if something goes wrong and there's enough trust capital, the partnership will be sustained and will just get stronger. But you can only build trust capital if it's values driven and it's over a long time. And I, when I hear what you're doing, saying that some of these programs are 10, 12, 15 years, that's the only way it works. If you jump from space to space, you become really just this one week stand as far as international partnerships are concerned. And I believe the value of having a long-term partnership, but also a stable support system within the institution that support internationalization. Those things goes hand in hand. The people's who's driving it, but also the values that supports it. That's critical for internationalization.
I think that's a wonderful conclusion for our panel discussion for this afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I now suggest that we move to the closing remarks, and I'd like to invite the founder and CEO of Applied HE, Ms. Mandy Mock, to make her comments. Mandy, you're muted.
Thank you, Peter. Hello again, and thank you for spending your time with us today. It's been a privilege to have such a large global audience and such a distinguished group of speakers. My deep appreciation to all the speakers for your outstanding contributions, and a big thank you to all the participants. While this marks the end of this particular Applied HE City U Hong Kong Masterclass, new episodes in this series will take place throughout 2022. We anticipate to cover many more relevant and exciting topics during the months to come, so keep an eye on your mailbox. We will be sending you more details soon. We hope that you've enjoyed this event and have learned positive new things about the City University of Hong Kong. So should you receive an invitation to nominate top international universities for one of the international rankings, please nominate City University of Hong Kong. I'm sure you'll agree with me that they deserve your support. Also, if you like this event and are curious about what Applied HE can do to help boost your global reputation, please drop us a line. We have solutions that can fit any budget, including a range of complimentary services that you can start using right away. We also like to think outside the box, so do share with us what challenges your institution is facing and let us present you with an exciting and innovative solution. And finally, do check out our many other new initiatives. We have a professional networking platform called Applied HE Future. And earlier this year, we launched Southeast Asia's first ever Applied HE private university ranking ASEAN with a strong focus on learning and employability. And currently, registration for the 2023 Applied HE private university ranking Asia Pacific is open. We welcome your participation if your institution is in the Asia Pacific region. So do join us for the briefing session on the methodology next Thursday on the 11th of August at 3 p.m. Singapore time. Until then, allow me to wish you a great weekend ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay in touch with Applied HE. Thank you very much, and God bless.
All right, and before I give the final word, thanks again to our fantastic panelists and also our audience for tuning in. It's been a really interesting discussion. And now the final words to none other than the City University of Hong Kong Vice President for Development and External Relations, once again, Professor Matthew Lee.
Well, thank you again to all our presenters for sharing their thoughts. I hope that our own experience at City U with internationalization and global partnerships and the insights from the South African context will be useful to everyone participating today. I'm sure that you will agree with me that dialogues today probably leaves us with a great deal to consider. No doubt we have further questions leading from our conversations that we have had today. So let's keep in touch and keep up the dialogue. This is just a start. We are always learning from each other. I think this is the essence of internationalization of global partnerships. No one is perfect. We are always learning from each other, and we need each other in one world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I think our technical colleagues will shortly cut the feed. Thank you.